A supposed comet is catching the attention of some of the nation's most renowned scientists, as one Harvard professor is raising the theory this may actually be a piece of alien technology.
We've got some fresh images of 3I Atlas, a third ever interstellar object observed from Earth, currently racing through our solar system.
The headline said this is just another harmless rock passing through space, nothing to worry about. But what if the real story isn't what they're telling you?
We talk about space and we talk about specifically not maybe this Atlas rock, but UFOs, that we're starting to hear more and see more videos of people saying that they've had these encounters, these sightings.
This one isn't any other visitor, it's 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever recorded. And reports swarming in say its path could intersect with Mars. Yet while the headlines play it safe, behind the scenes we're hearing whispers of leak simulations, classified models, and meetings no one's supposed to know about.
So yeah, you've just reminded me that was Saturday as well. So I think this is just the beginning of what's to come.
If it can strike Mars, what's stopping the next one from hitting Earth?
Especially in a blind date like this one, all bets are off. This visitor came from interstellar space, and it's possible that it targeted the inner solar system for a technological reason.
On July 1st, 2025, the Atlas Sky Survey flagged a faint moving object. Within hours, astronomers realized its orbit wasn't bound to the sun, it was hyperbolic, on a one-way trip through our system. That made it official, the third interstellar object ever recorded. The name was 3I Atlas. Following Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019, this is only the third time in human history we've seen something wander in from another star system. NASA quickly classified it as a hyperbolic interstellar comet.
And really want to talk to you about, what did we find out so far about the Atlas rock that maybe we didn't know before?
Well, this is a really interesting story because it's an example of the internet gone absolutely insane. The only real source for good information about this is NASA. Unfortunately, everything else is a conspiracy theory. NASA is still classifying it as a comet. They're saying that there's nothing radically unusual about it.
That's what they told us, that it was non-threatening, just another curiosity for the textbooks. They want us to believe it's nothing more than an icy rock, hurtling past on a natural trajectory. But here's the problem. Every time we've had an interstellar visitor, the story hasn't stayed so simple. Oumuamua showed a strange acceleration no one could explain. Borisov broke apart in unusual ways. And now comes Atlas, bigger, brighter, and moving faster than expected. This comet is already sparking whispers that don't match NASA's calm public tone, because while the official story stays neat and tidy, the leaks bubbling online paint a very different picture.
One of those things I feel like that is really engaging with the brain right now is this interstellar object 3I Atlas. At the same time, it's capturing people's attention for sure, because there's been an explosion of interest on it, which, didn't really know this was going to happen when we first found it in July. But I'm also been connecting into it a lot because of my just research into it. And it seems to me that there is a resonance between interstellar space and the interstellar environment.
This is where the story takes a turn. On the surface, 3I Atlas is just another harmless interstellar visitor. At least that is what the official reports keep repeating. But when you start looking at the orbital models, a very different picture emerges. Independent trackers, the kind of people who spend their nights running numbers and simulations, notice something odd. The object's path lines up for a very close approach to Mars in late September 2025.
According to renowned theoretical physicist Professor Avi Loeb, the comet is on an extremely unusual path, moving too fast to be bound by the sun's gravity, breaking a typically seen orbital trajectory. And while this comet poses no current threat, Professor Loeb believes more data should be collected to uncover the nature of this object and whether it has the potential to create risks in the future.
NASA's official line is that there is zero chance of impact. They love that word, zero, a lot. But space does not work in absolutes. When you factor in uncertainty margins, the corridor of possible outcomes is much wider than what the press releases suggest. And tucked inside that corridor is a small but undeniable possibility, a direct strike on the Martian surface. Here is the catch. Mars is not covered by planetary defense policies. Agencies like NASA are legally required to warn us if Earth faces a threat, but there is no such rule for Mars. If an impact was in play, they would have no obligation to sound the alarm, which raises the question the public keeps asking. If they knew the truth, would they ever tell us? Let's hear what astrologer Pam Gregory says about 3I Atlas.
The fact that we are discovering further and further out there in the heavens, which is always a characteristic when Pluto moves into Aquarius, but it's also reflecting the expansion in our consciousness. I think we only start to see these objects further out when our consciousness expands sufficiently.
This is where the whispers become impossible to ignore. In August, a set of alleged leaked documents began spreading online. They were said to come from a chain of emails between NASA researchers and a Harvard-based astrophysics team. On the surface, the files look like ordinary technical memos, but once you read deeper, the language is disturbing. The scientists described 3I Atlas as showing signs of pulsed outgassing. That is a term usually used when a comet vents material. But the description suggests something closer to controlled thrust, as if the object can alter its own trajectory. The documents even include model runs that calculate a potential impact with Mars. The dates they mention fall between September 19th and 30th of this year.
It's all down to our focus and attention. Where we put our focus is what we create. And, you know, this is going to be such a lesson in mastery of our frequency going forwards, because it's all to do with that. And if we focus on the war potential, we'll get more of that in our reality. If we focus on the joy, the peace, the love, we'll get more of that. I think it's that simple. It's just a mirror, and we've got to be really strict with ourselves to navigate this period of time magnificently, which I think we will do.
Another section stands out even more. It states that an impact could release energy equivalent to millions of megatons of TNT. For context, that is more destructive power than every nuclear weapon on Earth combined. To see that kind of energy unleashed on Mars would be like watching a planet-scale detonation. Now, we cannot confirm that these documents are genuine, but the format, the phrasing, and the data all mirror how real NASA correspondence looks. If it is a hoax, it is a very convincing one. And here is the contradiction. Behind closed doors, the language reads like panic. In front of cameras, the same officials look calm, brushing it all aside as routine. Even major news outlets briefly acknowledged unverified documents circulating online. When mainstream anchors are forced to mention leaks, it means the story has already broken containment.
They're all talking about the same time frame. You know, whether you're talking about Richard Rudd with the New Human, and he said this metamorphosis for humanity began on the 30th of January this year and will complete in 2027, whether you're talking about Lee Harris with the Future Human, whether you're talking about Dr. David Clement saying the tip of the first wave of this new consciousness is beginning at the beginning of December, whether I'm talking to Nancy Rebecca about her seeing huge galactic waves of energy peaking through December, January.
When people hear about space rocks, they usually think of Earth as the only world at risk. But Mars is not just a barren wasteland. It is a planet tied to billions of dollars in active missions and future plans. NASA's Perseverance rover is still roaming its surface, carefully gathering samples that are supposed to be returned to Earth. China's Tianwen probe and lander have their own ambitions, quietly collecting data and building momentum for Beijing's long-term goals. And then there is Elon Musk, who has built his entire Mars colonization dream on the idea that the planet will remain stable enough for humans to one day settle. Now imagine what happens if 3I Atlas slams directly into the Martian surface. The atmosphere could be altered. Dust and debris could poison landing sites. Radiation exposure could spike as protective layers thin. Every mission, every rover, and every dream of colonization could be wiped out in a single event. That is not just a scientific setback, that is a financial and political catastrophe. Which leads to the question that conspiracy researchers keep repeating. Is the silence around 3I Atlas really about scientific caution, or is it about protecting trillion-dollar investments in a future where Mars is the ultimate prize? No story about interstellar visitors feels complete without mentioning Avi Loeb. The Harvard astrophysicist became a household name after suggesting that Oumuamua, the first known interstellar object, might have been more than just a rock.
It's to be 20 kilometers in diameter. That's twice as big as the giant asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. And the previous objects we saw from interstellar space were only hundreds of meters in size. So there is just not enough rocky material in interstellar space to provide us with a 20-kilometer rock that appears once per decade.
The professor called it a possible probe, and whether people agreed or mocked him, the statement forced the scientific world to take notice. Since then, Loeb has launched Project Galileo, an initiative designed to systematically search for signs of extraterrestrial technology. Every time Loeb speaks, debates erupt. His reputation sits on the fault line between established science and radical possibility, which is why rumors tying him to early 3I Atlas discussions immediately caught fire. Some say he was quietly consulted, others claim he hinted at anomalies before the official discovery was even announced.
Moreover, it's moving in the opposite direction to the motion of the Earth around the Sun, and when it will come closest to the Sun, the Earth would be on the opposite side, so we won't be able to observe it. That's the point in time when it can do a maneuver with the aid of the Sun's gravity. And that will happen on October 29th. And I already heard from a fan that he is trading options against the volatility of the markets, the stock market, with an expiration date because of the October 29th, because if it's alien tech, that would change the future.
The Harvard name carries weight. If Loeb has even a peripheral link to 3I Atlas, it becomes impossible for believers to dismiss. To them, this is not just another comet, it is a potential messenger, a signal, maybe even a craft. And if Loeb is right, the real mission of 3I Atlas may not be passing by Mars at all. The question is, what exactly is it doing there? Then there are other radar echoes. Observers expected a faint signal, the kind of soft return that icy comets usually produce. Instead, the reflections were sharper and stronger, hinting at density closer to metal than stone. ESA's Mars Express probe reportedly logged 3 smaller objects moving in formation with 3I Atlas. NASA dismissed it all as noise in the data. But independent astronomers insist the pattern is too precise to ignore. Escort craft, fragments, or something stranger, the mystery deepens. This would not be the first time cosmic events were brushed aside though. In 1908, the Tunguska blast flattened thousands of square kilometers, yet governments downplayed the implications for decades. Even the Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013 was treated as a surprise, though monitoring programs existed.
Beginning of recorded history, and it's being amplified right now through our technological capabilities, our media capabilities, and public interest in the topic. But MUFON and other people that study this field have known for a very long time that there are non-human intelligences, probably from a variety of different sources, interacting with humanity, and that certain elements of the government and private industry have known about it since at least the 1930s, and some of the institutions have known about it longer than that.
The pattern is clear. Officials minimize threats until after the fact, claiming it is to prevent panic, but some believe the motive runs deeper. What if 3I Atlas is not a lone wanderer, but part of a sequence of probes, deliberately aimed at testing planets? Mars could be nothing more than a rehearsal. And if Mars is the test subject, what does that make Earth?
I would normally say that NASA might perhaps not be exactly telling us all the truth all the time. Just like with this recent, they found life on Mars and didn't tell us for a year. So I'm not saying that totally believe everything that you get from NASA either, but I'm saying that just NASA, Avi Loeb stuff.
The reason this story grips people is simple, but not less tensive. From Roswell to the jokes about NASA meaning never a straight answer, the cultural memory is already primed. For decades, the public has suspected half-truths and selective disclosure. Project Bluebeam, UFO hearings, secret memos, all of it feeds a growing distrust of the space organization. Each new leak or anomaly seems to confirm what many already believe. 3I Atlas is not the first secret, it is just the latest.
And Archangel Raphael has said consistently and persistently that the birth of this new galactic consciousness is on the 21st of December. So isn't it remarkable that 3I Atlas is going to be closest to Earth on the 19th of December, never, to our knowledge, having been anywhere close to our solar system before that we're aware of. I mean, that's pretty darn close, isn't it, as a target?
3I Atlas is a real interstellar occurrence heading for a close encounter with Mars. The official line says no danger, but the leaks say otherwise. Now the choice is yours. Do you think this is just a rock, or the opening act of something far bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this analysis, kindly leave a like and subscribe.